Yeah.
The AZ Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Mike Luke, joined by the venerable, the great, the indomitable, the clear, William Brad Ellis. Hello, William.
Hello, Michael.
How are you doing today?
I'm okay.
All right. We very much like that. Okay, that's good. Now, we've got a lot to get to this show. We're going to talk about the wacky Big 12. We are going to talk about the offense, the defense. We are going to talk a little bit about expectations for the Utah game. We're going to talk about a template to win at Arizona. But Brad, first, let's talk about the Big 12 a little bit and where Arizona is. First of all, Arizona's undefeated in conference play. A lot of teams have taken an L already. Arizona has not. So there is that. Now, let's talk a little bit, though, about what are your overall – we're a month plus into the season. What's your overall take on this conference?
It's pretty close to what I thought it would be, and that is very jam-packed.
Mm-hmm. Congested.
I mean, it's parity. It's
right.
The NFL's doing. I thought Oklahoma State and Kansas State might be a titch better, and I'm still not sure they aren't than we saw, because again, one game is just a snapshot. But I really thought it was a league where possibly the top 10 to 12 would all be pretty even.
Right.
And I think we're seeing that. And someone may come in here, but I think ASU's a little better than I thought they were.
They are.
I didn't think necessarily they were going to be as bad as a lot of prognosticators. And their record may still shake out that way, but they're competitive. They're putting a good. Really, there's only a couple bad teams in this league, and there's not a great team, with maybe the exception of Utah when fully healthy.
Right.
And I'm super intrigued by BYU.
Okay.
Who I was intrigued by anyways coming into the year. I thought they had a chance to be interesting. And they are.
What do you think about UCF? By the way, we're all UCF fans this week against Colorado. All UCF fans. Go ahead, Brad.
They were another one of those teams that could finish 4th or 14th, I thought. Right. That's a lot of this league. It's a parity driven league. There's not a great team with, again, maybe Utah. There aren't a lot of stinkers. Houston's in there. We'll see what Colorado becomes.
Sucks.
But other than that, there's a lot of teams that could all be somewhere between 4-8 and 8-4. And it could be like 2 turnovers, or whether you're 500 or sub 500.
All right. Now let's talk a little bit about Arizona, and let's talk a little bit about how Arizona factors into all of this. Now, again, clean slate, everybody. I keep saying this, Arizona 0-0 right now, but again, you're going into Rice-Eccles Stadium. Utah is very, very good, and obviously this is the template of a Utah team. They are going to play good physical defense. They are going to run the ball, and it doesn't matter. Even their backup quarterback is good enough. I am a little worried, though, that their backup quarterback, he is also a runner, unlike Cam Rising. Where do we feel about that, Brad? I'm not thrilled about that.
No, and he's played really well, and obviously he has a pretty good pedigree. Even though his brother has not been a very good NFL quarterback, his brother was talented enough to be a first-round draft pick.
Right.
So there's, he was a guy who Arizona really liked under Jed Fish, recruited heavily and may have finished second for. So there's going to be some motivation for both sides on that one. But yeah, his mobility is a concern. Now, I don't think he's the burner that the 2 quarterbacks who have given Arizona fits are, but he's good enough. And that's something Arizona has to work on. Because that's been their biggest bugaboo. Again, a lot of people I'm not killing the defense.
No, I'm not either.
The last 2 weeks, the defense has been fine. Is it great? No, but
it's been good enough to win. That's what I keep coming back to. It's been good enough to win. I agree with you, William.
You held NAU to 10 points
and like 81 yards.
Yeah, you held Kansas State in check. Now, did they look really bad against BYU? But people who automatically appoint, that's one of those weird. That's the opposite of the heading east for that early morning game.
Right.
Playing at 9:00 at night, your local time, or 10:00 at night, your local time, in a higher elevation at BYU, it's a tough game. Now, did I expect them to get drubbed? No, but I thought BYU had a legit chance at that game. So that's not an easy game. So again, we're seeing snapshots of these teams, and we're making opinions on a season that's 3 games, 4 games old.
One thing I don't understand about Utah fans, and I keep seeing this, is they're like, oh, Utah owes Arizona for last year. Kyle Whittingham is a very good coach. I like how he does things. Kyle Whittingham is also the king of running up scores. Fake punts when you're up 40 points, stopping the clock, all kinds of stuff. So again, miss me with all that. Juan Sex51. Also, is Cam Rising playing? That's a great question. Now, let me ask you this, Brad. When you're going against that Arizona pass rush, maybe it's a better idea to keep him out because you're worried about him getting hit a lot?
I haven't looked at the tape. I know Arizona has like 2 of the top 10 guys in quarterback pressures. Mm-hmm. But do they actually hit the quarterback?
No, they don't. That's a bogus stat.
Yeah, it's PFF, and I'm not a huge fan of PFF.
I'm not a PFF guy either.
Again, they get there, but part of the reason they get there is because the quarterback's running by them. It's by design.
Yeah, exactly. So
I
don't care.
Up the middle. So if Rising is healthy, he should play, but I don't rush him back.
You don't want to throw him to the wolves against this Arizona pass rush, do you?
I just don't want to get him hurt. I mean, I think he just had, he's got a hip replacement surgery. You could lose your retirement benefits.
All of that stuff and more.
And again, Wilson's played well.
Right.
But they go with the guy who's, if Rising's healthy, you go to him. You have to. Yeah. And you don't worry about, you can't worry about him getting hurt. And the good news is you got a capable backup.
All right, now let's talk about.
They haven't had in years past, to be honest.
All right, now let's talk about. We got a Penn State fan in here. Cool. Let's talk about now. We need to talk about the offense, Brad, because Sheard likes to assign kind of like similar blame. I think that's BS. It is the offense that has been a massive problem for this team. If you score. Against NAU, the offense was totally bad. It was listless. When you saw him against Kansas State, terrible as well. 1 touchdown. And again, I'm very curious to see what Babers says today, but I'm also curious just about how are we 3 games into the season and you have this kind of talent and we have no clue what you're doing.
I don't care what Babers has to say today.
I don't either.
Because, and it's not an indictment on Babers yet. I mean, I do have my concerns with Babers. Because what's he going to say? He's not going to tell you what they're going to do to fix it. I think a lot of people to me, the only thing press conferences are good for is the occasional soundbite. I want to know who's healthy, who's not. And in college football, I want to know who's switching positions. That's it. That's all I covered, I don't know how many hundred of press conferences. Basketball press conferences are better because you will get some strategy stuff. You will get some, we've got to limit this guy or we're going to run, they won't tell you what defense they're going to run. But Lute used to give you great stuff. Sean gave you good stuff. Lloyd, not quite as talkative. But in reality, I don't care. Now, to go on, this offense shouldn't be this bad. And I understand, and I thought there was some concerns with the offensive line. I think those have been well-founded. But my bigger issue is this offense's identity. I can't really tell you what kind of offense they're running. I guess it's a pro style, which is just that kind of generic term for, we're going to have, we're going to have running backs, tight ends, and wide receivers. They occasionally look long, occasionally try to quick strike. Sometimes there's spread elements there, but I really don't know if they have that true identity. And what I think they have to be is an offense that utilizes that talent, and their talent appears to be, obviously T-Mac. Obviously, they have a couple other receivers I think you can go to. They have completely abandoned the tight end, which, if you're an Arizona fan, is no shock. They've got a decent running game, even without Krasky Merritt. But, I want to see an offensive identity. And I want to understand more what the game plan is. And it's fine if you don't have one set thing. Every week is a different game plan, obviously. Some weeks you might be run heavy. Some weeks you might be try to force it to T-Mac. Some weeks it spread it around. but I haven't gone in there and felt like, oh, I know what this offense is.
Well, see, that's my problem is we went into the season saying that this got to be a top 15 offense. You've got maybe the best player in college football, certainly the best wide receiver. You've got a quarterback that can play. You return 4 or 5 offensive linemen. The running game actually hasn't been that bad. I've been more than okay. I've been more than okay with, Quali Conley and whatnot. But I also don't understand how you don't have an identity. I guess that's what how there's no hurry up. And the thing is, and again, not that I really care about that, but even look at that first drive against Kansas State. Drives like that worry me because yes, it took 7 minutes off the clock, but everything was a 3rd and 3, a 4th and 1. There was nothing where you were always ahead of the chains. Those are the ones that worry me. You weren't getting easy first downs. Nothing was given to you. Those are the ones that worry me.
Yeah, I mean, personally, what I want to see is I want to see them utilize again. I feel like they're trying to fit, and this is very Sumlin-esque, I think, maybe Mazzone-esque, where you're trying to fit these pieces into your offense as opposed to fitting your offense to the pieces. And Rich Rodriguez was really good at utilizing the talent he had. Obviously, he loved the zone read.
Right.
May have invented the zone read or came close. But when he had Matt Scott and no backup, they didn't run as much. They were pass offense. Then he went to Vanilla Vic, run heavy. Then he went to Anu.
But you always had a sense that he knew what he was doing, though, at least offensively.
And their problem was they get that 2 games a year where they just couldn't do anything right, and they'd start – they get down 21 and all of a sudden he's going for it on 4th and 4. And instead of, kicking a field goal and you lose 54-7 instead of 45-21. But yeah, I don't know what to do. To me, I need to see, I don't understand why you're not booting out Noah, getting him out of the pocket, both from I'm not sure how good the blocking is and his height. Utilize those tight ends, man. Whether it's as a safety valve, whether it's try to create a mismatch with safeties, whether it's trying to get some safety help away from T-Mac to get him more touches, get creative with Speedy, get creative with T-Mac, frankly. I'm just seeing what looks like, again, the biggest comparison I can tell you, it reminds me of the Mazzone offense under Sumlin, which, and again, I know some of this was Khalil's willingness to run, but man, that offense just looked like you're trying to do the same thing with him that he did with the 6'4", slow-footed UCLA quarterbacks.
Or Josh Rosen. By the way, Utah fans in here, you're a football school. You've never played for a national championship. Buzz off. Let me ask you this, Brad. Should we have been more concerned about Babers not calling a play since the Bush administration?
Probably.
Yeah.
I was intrigued by the hire, but I didn't love the hire.
Right.
There were some guys I wanted way more than him.
Right.
I'm not ready to write it off either. There's always, not always, but usually a transition with a new coaching staff, even with most of that talent back.
Right.
This to me is, in a weird way, the final preseason game. Because if you had told me they're going to be 2-2 after road games to Manhattan, Kansas, and in Salt Lake City, Utah, I'd be like, okay.
Right.
Did I think they'd play better in Manhattan? Yes. Do I want to see them play better this weekend? Yes. I know people don't like moral victories, but sometimes you have to be realistic. Utah's more than likely the best team in this league. And if you're 2-2 but play really well, you feel good moving into the rest of the schedule because you're not going to see anyone as good as Utah the rest of the way.
Yes, Ryan Neal, I did see that picture. We will talk about that. Awaka and Steven, very, very, very interesting. Okay, now let me ask you this, Brad. With Arizona, and we're going to talk about this a little bit tomorrow, I do feel that the guy that did have the best template to be able to win here, and again, we'll find out about Brent Brennan, but Jedd Fisch really had a good template on how to win here. In that he knew you're not going to generally get a lot of 5-star guys. You're going to get big Polynesians. You're going to have speed on the outside. If you're going to miss, you were going to miss whether with a ton of speed or a ton of size. And, where I think you can see the difference in not having Jedd. And again, I think Jedd was kind of an overrated coach, an X's and O's coach, really. But the one thing that you could see is I never got the sense with Jed that you were going to lack wide receivers. Right now, I feel that that this team is lacking wide receivers, obviously outside of T-Mac. We'll see about Patterson. With Jed, I never got the sense that was ever going to be the case, that you were going to lack wide receivers.
Then, I mean, you only lost 2 of Jed's guys, though, and one of those was a freshman. So these are Jed's wide receivers.
Well, right, but Jed would. But I'm thinking, I'm assuming Jed would have been able to add somebody. That's what.
And they added 2 guys who they have barely used, Patterson and it was Raymelo Murphy. But Jed didn't throw to many receivers either.
Right.
I'm not roster construction right now is not my concern, because I think Brennan has a template as well, and it's not that dissimilar from Jed Fish's template. It's that your niche recruiting is the Polynesian community, which I think is going to be just as good, if not better, under Brett Brennan.
Really?
Well, he recruited very well Polynesians to San Jose State. You've still got Duane Akina. You've got several Polynesian coaches on staff.
Well, you look at the Polynesians that Jed brought in, and this is the best we've ever seen. Noah Fafita, T-Mac, Jonas Savanea, Manu, Wendell Moy. I mean,
yeah, very good. Excellent.
Right.
And, again, I think that is where this program is going to try to maintain. I think you're going to see some, you have to have some niche recruiting in the Polynesian community is one. Dick Tomes was the Polynesian community and was the JCs.
Right.
And again, the JC market is completely different.
Completely different now. Right.
But, and you look at Tomey probably batted 60 to 75% on JC guys. Mike Stoops probably batted 50%.
Right.
Rich Rod batted about 20%.
Right.
As did, most of those other guys. That was the problem. Arizona has missed on a lot. Yeah.
T-Burns 826, great remark. He says, is Mason Graham not here because he's not Polynesian? Mason Graham, the kid who was also at Servite, considered probably the best defensive player in the country. Jed didn't want him. That was an interesting mishap.
Is that the Michigan kid?
Yeah. The Michigan.
Ironically enough, his uncle, who he's close to, but not, he has no sway. I play hockey with him.
Really?
Yeah, I play hockey with one of his uncles, Chad.
Wow, okay. Oh,
yeah.
Matthew Bothwell. Welcome in, Matthew Bothwell, by the way. All right, now, let's talk about the elephant in the room again. Do you when we think of like the big things that are going on, Empire Flooring, I think we got to talk about Empire Flooring here for a minute. So here's the deal with Empire Flooring. Brad, you look like a man that likes to walk around with cool flooring. You got a lot of rugrats running around. You got a lot of animals. You know what would look even better on their paws or their feet? Empire Flooring. This is true.
My flooring needs an upgrade. I had to drop a rug down recently because of some holes created by said animals. So
yes. Now schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive $350 off discount when they use promo code PHNX. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/PHNX for details. Empire Flooring. All right. Now, also, besides just Empire Flooring, there's another thing that goes right with it. When you think strong, when you think fast, when you think sleek, you don't always just think Empire Flooring. You also think Sanderson Ford. Brad, have you had a truck?
Does my SUV count?
Yes. Brad.
Then yes, I have a Ford truck right now. I have an SUV.
You need to check out Sanderson Ford, my friend. Check it out. Be like William Brad Alice. Now, again, they got seats for all types. They got seats for Jacob Franklin. They got seats for Brad Alice. They got seats for me. Sanderson Ford. Again, all kinds of really good stuff. Get deals on the 2024 Ford Bronco Sport for 5.9 APR for 66 months, plus $2,000. Must be financed through Ford Credit OAC. Also, they're celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month and a Dios de los Muertos inspired trunk or treat at Sanderson Ford. See dealership for details. Maybe when you go in there, you'll see William Brad Alice getting a Sanderson Ford or a Shane Diefenbach, perhaps. We're going to talk about Shane Diefenbach here in just a minute. But either way, check it out. Sanderson Ford, all kinds of good stuff. All right, Brad. Real quick, we're trying to get a receiver here to the University of Arizona. Our producer, Shane Diefenbach, today His cousin is the backup quarterback at the University of Pittsburgh. If you look, he has a 24/7 account. He was considered a top 50 player in all of California.
I remember seeing that, yes.
Ty Diefenbach. Yes. Now there's another Diefenbach coming up through the ranks. Brady Diefenbach, putting up big numbers at Agora Hills. We are trying to get him to the U of A. I dropped his name to one of the coaches. They're impressed, but get a load of this. Shane won't let us play highlights of him on the show. Can you believe this?
Maybe you just don't want the guy to blow up, or maybe you don't want him to get trolled by ASU fans. I don't know which.
Either way, we do not like it. We will continue to talk about Brady Diefenbach. Okay, now let's get to Arizona, Utah. Here's where I'm at with Arizona, Utah.
I'm still a little disappointed. And again, I understand the ties, but man, I want to see Desmond Roebuck in a U of A uniform.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. By the way, what do you think about Desmond Roebuck from Marana up in Washington?
I like him. Do I love him? I don't know if I mean, look what he's done, man. And
yeah,
he's had a couple different It's not like he's been riding one quarterback.
Right.
I can't remember who the kid was at SWOR, Reggie Robertson's main receiver, and he set the
Calvin Dacus.
Yeah, set the city record for receptions, and Dacus was good. But Reggie could have thrown to a lot of guys.
Yeah.
In fact, including sophomore, he threw to my brother. And loved my brother as a receiver, but they ran wing T back then.
Right.
But I think I think he's the real deal. Whether he's a good college player or a great, I don't know. But you want to keep those kids home when you can. And I know again the Fish staff was on him super early, but the family has ties to the U of A, also has some ties to ASU as their
I know
in-laws of the Bourdays.
So. I know Desmond Roebuck's father, Sean, fairly well. I've refereed Sean's games probably about 1,000 times. Sean Roebuck was a very, very good athlete. You're right, Joseph. He is a stand-up guy. Also, real quick, and again, this is one that I called. I could be totally wrong on it, big picture. I never saw it with Elijah Rushing. I went to a ton of his games. I never saw it. He's not on the 3 deep. He hasn't played a snap this season. Generally, when you're considered the top defensive end in the country, you're at least getting some run. I do not see that one at all.
I still want him in a U of A uniform because you want to keep those kids home, especially now that you don't have to worry about the 25-man scholarship limit.
Right, exactly.
But I also understand the challenges of keeping kids home.
Yeah, for sure.
Now that you can, again, it was different when I first started covering recruiting, and not every game was on TV, first of all. I still remember going to a bar next to Skate Country because they had the illegal feed of an Oregon game that they were able to dial in on their satellite. And you can't FaceTime mom and dad. You had to get a calling card and call home. And I'm really old, by the way. But now you can literally be in the locker room talking to your mom and dad as they're home watching the game live, in the comfort of their home. So again, I understand kids leaving home, and I'd never, it's one thing if you're leaving home to go to a lesser type but if you're going, if you're Bijan and you go to Texas, I get it. If you're going to Oregon and they're throwing you an NIL pile, I get it.
Right.
But you probably need to keep about, as I said, you probably want to keep about 50% of your local kids home. I think you need to keep about a third of your top Phoenix kids home. Maybe even closer, I think, eventually to 50%, because again, that's getting away from home by coming down to Tucson. So we'll see if they're able to do that.
All right, let's talk Arizona, Utah here. Here's where I'm at with Arizona, Utah. First of all, just don't get blown out. First, I don't want to have happen again what happened to Kansas State, where it was 38-7 and it felt like it could have been 88-7. Don't have that happen. And I need the offense. The line in Vegas is 13 points. The over-under is 51 points or something like that. Basically, they're saying it's going to be like a 31-20 game. If Arizona scores 20 points against Utah, I'll take it, period.
I want the game to be in doubt midway through the fourth.
Oh, wow. Okay, Brad, high expectations. I like it.
Now, in doubt could be 10 points. I want you within striking distance. So 30-20, I'd be fine with.
Right.
I use a kind of a good example. I kind of want to see something similar to the Mississippi State game last year. And again, Utah's way better than Mississippi State was.
Yes.
But Arizona was better at the end of that year. But where, you probably don't deserve to win, but you have a chance to win. And again, it doesn't even have to come down to the final possession or overtime. I just want to walk out of there knowing Arizona is not that different than Utah. So when they
like us.
So when they play the rest of the conference, who I think is below Utah, again, I think Utah's the best team. And I thought that preseason, I thought Utah was the best team. Of course, I thought Oklahoma State was better. So
You said you thought Cincinnati was the best team. You said that all.
No, I don't. Even though my love of the Kelsey brothers is high, I did not think Cincinnati was the class of the league. But that's what I want to see. And if you go into the rest of the season 2-2, I'm fine with that. Because again, my expectations were tiny bit lower. I hope that Arizona was a team that was going to win 10 or 11. But I really thought 8 was the number for this team.
Right.
Because I thought in some places they overachieved last year. I thought in some places they got a little lucky. In some places they got unlucky. They probably should have beaten USC and maybe Mississippi State. But that's what I want to see. I want to see Arizona basically being a top 4 or 5 type team in the Big 12, which with the balance in the Big 12, you still could finish 8th and still be that good. But I just don't want to see them looking like the team we've seen the last 2 weeks.
Yes. Okay. By the way, Angel Antonio Chavez. We have not seen him this week. Is that the coolest name in the chat?
That just sounds like the middleweight champion of the world.
I could not get over how cool that name is. Every time I see it, I get excited. Angel Antonio Chavez. That name can basically be the best soccer player in the world, like you said, a middleweight, or somebody that is like
a novella actor.
Yeah, no, a novella actor or something.
Yeah.
Either way, it's somebody that is highly successful in life. Everybody wants to be Angel Antonio Chavez with that name. That is how cool Angel Antonio Chavez is. I've never met him, but that name is absolutely fantastic. Okay, now let's get to the Arizona running.
It's not a weak name like Brad Alice
or Mike Luke. Those names. Angel Antonio Chavez, very cool name. Okay, now let's talk about the running game. That is one thing that I have not had a problem with. Listen, JCM likely is done. But Quali Conley, I have been more than okay with. I really have. I think with Ricino, I'm cool with that too. The running game, I don't have a problem with.
No, I mean, I think you got capable running backs. I think they, did a good job. And frankly, did a good job when they originally thought they weren't going to have JCM.
Right.
And you have and they've always had a plan for that. And that's one thing, for the most part, you can see what their plan has been at each spot. Hasn't always worked yet this season, but they brought in 3 transfer running backs. And if 2 can contribute to go along with, a really talented yet unproven player that was on the roster and a pretty good prospect who I think they're trying to redshirt. You've seen the same thing at offensive line where they stockpiled a bunch of transfers. They just haven't made a difference yet and may not, but they made those attempts. Same thing on the defensive line. They're striking. They're not hitting yet. I'm not ready to write some of these guys off either, by the way, but you're not hitting yet. But you can see that, but yeah, the running game has been good. It had a lot of big plays. I think the problem was last week, you couldn't establish it consistently.
Right now,
it was very much a 12-yard, 1 yard, 1 yard, 1 yard.
All right, now I got to give a couple shout outs here. Bear Down Cats 96, the great Bear Down Cats 96. Yes, you did call it on JCM. I was wrong. You were right. Very, very good work on that. JCM likely done. Okay, now Roy Samuelson. Listen, on this show, we generally don't like people with 2 first names. That's why it's good that he has son at the end of the name. Mike Luke. We don't really, Brad Alice, although it could be a Alice if it was spelled correctly, it could also be 2 first names. But Roy Samuelson says, point of head coach, this is so good. Point of head coaching is placing players in successful situations. Brennan hasn't done that. And then Brennan was asked about that basically at the presser yesterday. And he said, well, I'm not really involved during the game with the offense or the defense. What is your thought on that quote? What is your thought on Mr. Roy Samuelson's remarks?
I don't think he's wrong, but again, I think it's still too early to pass any kind of judgment.
I agree.
There are always growing pains. Again, most of the time we've seen coaches come in, they're taking over terrible situations.
Exactly. I get it.
But let's use Dick Tomey as an example. He came in, he was 500 with all Larry Smith's guys, who the year before won 8 or 9 games.
Right.
It took, and again, different eras. I get it. It took Stoops 3 or 4 years to get his footing. Now, he inherited a terrible situation. Rich Rod inherited a good situation and kind of hit the ground running a little bit that first year. Then they end up dipping mid-year. So, again, I'm not ready to write off. Do I wish Arizona got out of the gates faster? Absolutely. but I think it's silly to write off things week 3. Could we be at week 6 or 7 and they at the very least they got to make some wholesale changes here in the out season? Yeah, they could.
Right.
Again, have not liked what I've seen from Babers,
Right.
play calling, and frankly some of the staff development. But at the other hand, defensively, again, people I think are too critical for a defense. And again, is missing a lot of pieces from last year. And even last year, that wasn't Desert Swarm. It was a good it was fine defense. It was an improved defense. So again, I think you're hitting the panic button too early. Now, should you know where the panic button is? Sure. Can we be disappointed could we be disappointed Saturday? Yes. If they lose 45-14, this team's in trouble.
Right.
And could spiral. But again, transitions are hard in college football, even when you bring back, and again, it ends up being about 50% of the roster. That's an important 50%. But man, they had to turn over a lot.
We got a great comment in here from about a player that we have not given enough love. Jose L. Roman Jr. are bringing this up. But first, we also got to talk about Circle K. Brad, when was the last time you went to Circle K?
Saturday.
Okay. Either Saturday?
Saturday.
Oh, wow. Saturday. Brad, you're slacking. What's up, man? What's going on?
I haven't had a baseball game or practice in 2 days.
Oh, come on. That's no reason not to go to Circle K. Come on. Look at this. Also, now there are the people asking about my job application to Circle K. I have not officially applied yet, but my goals are very straightforward. I want to work 4 hours per month at the one on 6th Street, and I will have a great time. I will be the best 4-hour-a-month employee that company has ever seen. So when that application is submitted, you all know. But in the meantime, join the Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. Join the Inner Circle. William Brad Alice, are you part of the Inner Circle?
Yes, and I did lie. I was there yesterday.
You go. See, that's the thing. Circle K is so ingrained in Brad Alice that he forgets even when he is there. That is the big part.
I went to a different one. Tyler wanted a Gatorade after football practice, so we went to Circle K.
There you go. We gotta hydrate our future left tackle.
He's an inside blocker now. He's starting left guard.
So he's moved from Ralph Zarate to who else? Who else could it be? Joe Hernandez. How about that?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and he had to move inside on defense too when Tank and Big Tony were academically ineligible.
Absolutely. Check it out. Circle K and Chicken and Pickle. You strike me as being very good at pickleball, William Brad Alice.
Haven't started playing yet. Want to.
Okay.
I still got hockey aspirations. The knees are still holding up.
Head to chickenandpickle.com to see all the fun you can have at their Glendale location. Glen and Dale, combining 2 names. I'll bet you one thing. I'll bet you that Tommy Lloyd has been to Chicken and Pickle before. As a matter of fact, I'd be stunned if he hasn't.
Yeah, I mean, and frankly, I have been by that Chicken and Pickle on my way to both a Cardinals football game, Cardinals Chiefs last year, and the Metallica concert last fall.
Yes, many people also, when they go to Chicken and Pickle, they also are going to the Gila River Resorts and Casinos. They're doing the Wave. But either way, check it out, Chicken and Pickle. Oh, the lovely Erica L. Day has joined the chat. She just says, Brad, can I be your pickleball partner? That's the thing about Brad. Brad gets a new camera, and all of a sudden the ladies are hitting on him.
She can carry me in pickleball. And by the way, it's not Connor McDavid. I'm a goalie, but thank you for the kind words, TR Burns 826.
Mm-hmm. So there's all right. So that's where we are at with that one. Now let's talk a little bit about the Arizona. Let's talk a little bit then about where what the overall defense is. Where are you at with Duane Akina?
I'm not ready to proclaim it a success, but it's not a failure yet. I mean, obviously they were bad against New Mexico. I think they are going to, with this personnel, continue to struggle against mobile quarterbacks. But when you give up 34 points in 2 games, and again, NAU, not a good team, but they put up 66 on whatever junior college team they played the week before. Defense was not the issue last week. Now, was Kansas State, again, Kansas State left points on the field. I get it. I would give the defense is like a B-, but it was good enough to win last week. Special teams let you down, and the offense was just miserable. So again, I can't say Akina, just like I can't proclaim other things a failure. I can't proclaim it a success, but I'm far less worried. And I'm also confident that Akina will continue to tweak and work and has an overall concept of what he wants to do. And I think in many ways last week, he said, we'll let the quarterback beat us with his legs. He's not going to pass much on us. I think, obviously they got what, 300 yards rushing. That's way too much. But you were never really worried about the running backs making big plays. The quarterback scared the hell out of you, but his arm didn't. And I think, again, if you say, look, we have to give up something. We're going to give up the run to the quarterback. We're going to give up 20 points. Let's even say it was 30. The 2 field goals, they missed the one and the mismanagement of the clock. 30 points should be enough to win in the Big 12. The Big 12 is a shootout league. It's what the Pac-12 was 25 years ago, or maybe 2 weeks ago. But that's enough. So again, I'm not loving the defense, but I'm not like awful. No, it's fine. It needs to continue to be fine to good, as the offense has to improve. But again, I'm not concerned about the defense, though I'm not ready to proclaim it a success either.
Okay, now let's talk about Caden Luke. I am a massive fan of Caden Luke. I think he needs to be on scholarship already. Caden Luke is the man. When he comes into the game, that is a battering ram. Caden Luke, by the time he leaves here, is going to be a big fan favorite.
Yeah, I think all too often we prop up local kids who don't have
not this one
D1 measurables. And I feel some people do a disservice to these guys. And I've long said, go out and watch a high school football game. You can see in Tucson, and usually within the first 5 minutes, you can tell who's a prospect. Doesn't necessarily mean he's the best player out there, but, and I'll give you a great example. There was a lineman a couple years ago, a decade ago, from Mountain View. Kid was like 6'4", 280. Moved differently. Wasn't a great lineman at the time. Went JC and went on his mission. I'm starting for BYU, but he looked different. Caden Luke's one of those guys, though. And my only concern with him was he's a fullback. He's clearly a fullback, and the fullback's kind of a dying position in college football, but Arizona's found a way to use him. Right. And yes, I think he's a guy who should be put on scholarship. He should be used. Again, do I think he's, a 20 carry a game guy? No, but he's probably a 20 snap a game guy. Right. Use him on pass protection. Use him as that lead blocker. Occasionally maybe give him the ball for when you need that 2 yards and put his head down and just bowl in there. But so, yes, I like him, obviously being part of the extended Luke family. He's a good pickup. And again, that's the type of guy now with the change in the scholarship rules, you can take a chance on that maybe you couldn't a few years ago.
Right. Yeah, but I love Caden Luke. I would 1,000% throw Caden Luke a scholarship. Also, I was wrong. I think that the fullback can be part of it, though.
No, I do too. It's just that was my one concern when people like, why isn't Arizona recruiting him? Well, Arizona doesn't have a fullback. Now again, that is again another case of look at your personnel, figure out what I can do with them.
Right.
As opposed to, well, we don't have fullbacks. We don't need a fullback. We don't want a fullback. Well, why not? Yeah. You have a kid locally who wants to come play for you. He's good enough to play for you. Find a spot for him.
Right. Okay.
Again, especially now that you're not held to the, 25 scholarships a year. You can go beyond that.
Right. Okay. Now, so again, give me your prediction for Arizona, Utah.
Utah 31, Arizona 21.
Right. I'll take it. I think everybody should take that. Okay, Brad, now is that how Arizona missed on Blake Martinez?
Yes and no. And I will be the first to admit, I think I'm pretty good at, I didn't get Blake Martinez because I thought Blake Martinez was a tight end, and I thought he was a good tight end. I didn't think he was a great tight end.
Right.
I didn't see Blake Martinez being pro linebacker. And I think that's where they missed him. I mean, there were certain guys, he didn't jump. He was always very good. But I'll give you a great example. He was a little more physically put together than Jake Fisher. Mm-hmm. Jake Fisher didn't look like a college linebacker, played like a college linebacker, and he was one of those guys you took a chance on. They didn't on Martinez. And again, Fisher was a very good player. There were other guys who, again, jump out. I'll tell you a guy I think everyone slept on was Jared Tevis.
Right.
Took me one game to say that guy's a D1 safety.
Yeah, for sure.
And had to walk on. And he again was physical, again proved himself as a walk-on and all that. But yeah, I missed on Martinez too. Didn't see. I thought he was a college player. I thought he was New Mexico State. At the time in Oregon State who weren't quite there. I didn't see him, and I'll fully admit it. I missed it.
Right. All right. Now let's move over to a little bit of Arizona basketball here. Also, Roy Samuelson just hits the nail on the head. He said, Arizona just doesn't look like they're having fun. They need to get back to the fun from last year. Too much pressure on all ends. It doesn't. It looks like they are just, that's a great point. It looks like they're just going through stuff.
Is that may be the consequence of the NIL era?
Mm-hmm.
It's always been a business. Let's not pretend it hasn't. Let's
Right.
not pretend kids weren't getting funneled things all over college football. But now you are literally signing contracts. You have to represent companies. You have to, I think that's part of it.
Right. All right. Now, Arizona basketball here. What are your I'm just going to lay it on the table. What are your expectations for Arizona basketball this season going into the Big 12? Kansas is going to be the preseason 1 or 2 team. I feel like, though, after that, though, Arizona is right in the mix with any of those other teams. What say you?
Top 5 finish, which is a top 2 finish in the Pac-12 in years past. Second weekend team. A lot of things have to come together for me to think they're a team that can make a deep run. Mm-hmm. But the pieces are there to do it.
Right.
I just don't know, how they're going to mesh, how some of these young guys are going to fit. How good is Krivas now that he's the starter?
Right.
How good is Awaka as his backup? Mm-hmm. How good is Trey Townsend at now playing 25 games against top tier competition, not 5 games? Does KJ Lewis make the leap? Mm-hmm. Does Jaden Bradley make the leap? Is Carter Bryant ready to play? I mean, again, when you're talking like, we haven't mentioned, I know someone mentioned he looks really good. Emmanuel Stephen, they're not counting on him, but that's a really talented kid. Right. So I just don't know where this team's at. How do they all mesh together? The Australian kid. It could all click and you're a top 3 team, top 5 mm-hmm. team. It could all not, and you're still probably a 20 to 25 win team, and you're a tournament team. So I think, there are a lot of questions to answer, but the good news is there's a lot of potential answers for those questions.
All right, now let's talk Jaden Bradley. Is this the first time? And again, I got to give you a lot of credit here, Brad. You were the one that called Jaden Bradley before the season. Brad Allis, this is why we have Brad Allis on the show. Jaden Bradley, you said before the season, that would be my starting point guard. Brad, I thought you were silly. You were not silly. That's why you're the venerable William Brad Allis. Arizona's going to have a good point guard for the first time under the Lloyd era.
This is potentially the best point guard since TJ McConnell.
I would agree with that.
How crazy is that in Arizona? Mm-hmm. Because just look at, I'll tell you again, I like Bradley because I wanted to play Boswell off the ball, but within a month I wanted to play Boswell off the bench. And Bradley, his plus minus was unbelievable.
Right.
And he took care of the ball in crunch time. Is he a big shot maker? No, but he knows when to shoot, mm-hmm. knows when to get in the lane. And, so again, I really like Jaden Bradley. He needs to take a leap. He needs to be the guy, can he do it for 28 minutes, not 18 minutes, not 12 minutes?
Let me ask you this. What is his, remember, and I keep saying this and people keep slapping me around. I don't think I'm wrong. Why can't Jaden Bradley beat Jamal Shead? Jamal Shead was absolutely fantastic for Houston. He was a defensive grinder. Not only was he a defensive grinder, he was also a guy that he was tough. He was physical. He could get into the paint. He could finish. He could do a lot of different things. Not a great shooter. Why can't he be Jamal Shead? Why can't he be, say, something like 13 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, and be, first team all Big 12?
You know what I'll take 9 points and a 4-to-1 assist to turnover ratio.
I mean, that's exactly what it is too.
I don't need a big time scorer from that position. What I need is I need a guy who can hit a big bucket when he's called on. I need a guy who can get in the lane. I need a guy who's not going to get lit up for 20. Right. And I need a guy who's taking care of the basketball.
Right.
And who, frankly, is not afraid. And Boswell was afraid.
Mm-hmm. That Boswell, how much of that too do you think with Boswell was just that Boswell didn't clearly put in the work? Boswell, at the end of the day, when you look the way that Boswell did, he didn't put in the work. I don't care what he did during practice. You look at Jaden Bradley, there's not an ounce of fat on him. He clearly takes basketball seriously. You know what? It's just weird to me that Tommy Lloyd has run such a fun style. It's very reminiscent of Lute, that he's had such a difficult time getting point guards. That's the odd part about this to me.
I still think it's weird that Sean Miller didn't do better with point guards.
Oh, I can totally.
And I understand the
style. You want to be a point guard under Sean Miller? Come on, Brad. Run the ball to half court and then stare at him for 5 seconds each time down the court. Stop.
But you know what? He's a guy who could develop you, I think. But again, I thought again, Sean Miller's biggest problem was he didn't know what he wanted. He wanted 5-star guys, but he wanted to play a system that's made for 3-star players. Mm-hmm. He was a system coach who thought he could just again, it's not like Alfred too.
Right.
Let's just stockpile a bunch of 5-stars and we'll figure out how they fit, but then we're going to cram them into our system. Whereas Lute would have been like, oh, I have Trier. Okay, he's not a pure point guard, but you know, Lute was adaptable. Sean wasn't, and I think Lloyd's more adaptable. But yeah, I think I think this is going to be a very important year because if Bradley thrives, then you're going to be getting more of these point guards coming in. Whether they're transfer point guards, whether they're young point guards, whether they're combination.
Who should be a bigger priority for Arizona, in your opinion? If you could have one of these two players, Koa Pete or Braden Burries, who would you want?
Burries.
That's kind of where I go.
And I will tell you why. Again, Pete might be the better player. Probably is the better player. I think you can find capable bigs more places.
I tend to agree with you. But
I think you win with guards.
But here's my problem, though. That when you have a top 5 in-state player that is indigenous to the state, I always said that always sounds weird when I say indigenous to the state. But you get it, born and raised. That also to me is just a terrible look to lose on that guy when you've been on him from day one. Has that ever happened before?
Do we count Vegas Davis?
Oh, wasn't recruiting him from day one.
I mean, as day one as a guy. I mean, Lute didn't lose in-state guys.
Right. He didn't.
He didn't recruit some in-state guys, but he didn't lose in-state guys.
Miller didn't either. Miller
Not
didn't.
many. No.
If Miller wanted you, he got you.
Yeah, pretty much.
So also now we're going to talk about that in just a second. We're going to stick with some basketball talk. But first, Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Everybody out there, do the wave. Get the wave going. Shane Diefenbach, get in here. Get the wave. Kevin Thomas always gets in here with the wave. Come on, check it out. Brad, let me see your wave as well. Let me see what you got. Come on. Check it out. Check it out. Check it out. All right. The Gila River Resorts and Casinos. You might say to yourself, Mike Luke, why would I go there? Well, first of all, there's the wave. Duh. Second of all, it is a fun, immersive experience. Check it out. Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Shane Diefenbach never messages me during the game, or during the show, but he did say that Gila River Resorts and Casinos is legit. When you're a man of few words and you put that out there, you know that it is legit. Everybody else, again, do the wave. Come on. Wave time, wave time. What time is it? Wave time. Ooh. All right. Now, you do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details. At Gila River Resorts and Casinos, no one does it better. Check it out. Everybody out there doing the wave, very, very good. Okay, now also game time. Brad, you remember those Chicago Bulls entries, the starting lineups when you had the awesome music, and then
Alan Parsons Project, yeah,
exactly. And then you would also have, and now at guard 6'6". From North Carolina, Michael Air Jordan. What time is, and they would always say at the end, what time is it? Game time. Woo. All right. But that was a different game time. Here is game time as well. Brad, you've used game time. This is true.
Yes.
Okay. Now, when did you use game time?
Tickets for, I can't remember which sporting event, but something. I think a baseball game.
All right. All kinds of really good stuff. Here's the deal with Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Woo. All right. Now, Game Time and Gila River Resorts and Casinos. That is basically Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen, Shaq and Kobe. That is, and when they're back to back like that, it just gets a really, really good feeling. All right. Now, I think this is also going to. I think this is also going to be a very, very good opportunity for Arizona just to see what's going on in the Big 12. Though, like I said, I am happy because for Arizona, you could also look at a schedule and you could see for 2 months that Arizona wasn't really playing anybody. And I think they fell into that trap at some points too, where you would end up losing to Stanford. You would end up losing to Colorado. You would end up, or something like that. Here's the thing. If you bring a Stanford level performance against, against, let's say, Iowa State on the road, you're going to lose by 500 points. That to me is what's also very enticing about this.
Yeah, the other thing is, though, there aren't many arenas in the Big 12 where you're going to walk in and Section 34 is holding a study session.
Right.
I mean, there were literally games where Arizona started at Corvallis and there were less than 2,000 people in, and then there was a lead at halftime and kids would literally come in and make it but even 4,000. I mean, it's hard to get up, I think. And I know, again, these are 18-year-old kids. You're going to go into Hilton Coliseum in Ames, Iowa, and there's going to be 14,000 people going crazy.
Right.
You are not going to hear the U of A chants there. You're not going to hear as long as Jerome Tang is there, you're not going to hear U of A chants in Manhattan, Kansas.
Right.
I've been to Fog. It is the best environment I have ever been in for any sporting event.
Right.
I have not been to Cameron. I have not, but I've been to Stanford when it was hopping.
Yep.
Tiger Woods was there. I've been there.
Oh, wow, you were there. What were you?
Not that one. It was a different one, but he was there.
Right.
Fog was unbelievable. Till Jason Gardner sleeps out of our silence the crowd.
Right.
But, Texas Tech has a pretty rabid fan base as of now. They're not always that case. Cincinnati.
The school walking thing is not going to work. And I think that's the thing. Here's where I'm also at with Tommy Lloyd. I think that Tommy Lloyd has to, I think that he also, he's really good. I hope Tommy Lloyd's here for 800 years. But he, well, if he lives to be that long, but I hope that he is I think that he needs self-motivating players.
I worry that the one thing I do worry about Lloyd staff is I don't think he has, for lack of a better word, apologize, an ass chore.
Well, no, I don't. Here's where I'm at with that. I think you're right. I don't believe that players, and I think Kylan Boswell is the embodiment of this. I don't believe that players are in the least bit worried about being disciplined from him. And Boswell showed it. Boswell was a partier all season. Guess what? He knew he was going to play 20 minutes per game. Boswell shows up to the casino late. And guess what? He still plays 20 minutes. You have got to have some form of accountability at some point. And I think that's where that's the one thing that I think Lloyd lacks.
You can even do it in a weird way. You can even do it the Lute way where you have some whipping boys.
Mm-hmm.
And Miller was that way too. Certain guys had different length leashes. One reason I might not be on radio is my critique of him not having a shorter leash on Mark Lyons.
Right.
But benching, Gabe York the minute he looked at the wrong.
Right.
But I don't get that for many people on, I think they need a guy who somehow to be held accountable, whether it's a benching, whether it's a butt chewing, whether it's, the way I tell you, the guy who was a master of it was Rodney Tension under Lute, who knew when to be your nice uncle and put an arm around you and pump you up. He knew when to be your hype man, and he knew when to get on your butt. And sometimes it was within the same conversation.
Right.
And I'm not sure Murph's that guy. I have seen Murph fired up, but I'm not sure Murph's that guy. I don't see Steve Robinson being that guy. And I don't know Coach Benson. I've never met the guy. Robinson seems to me to be a put my arm around you and then give you the disappointed look. And for Caleb Love, it's worked perfectly.
Right.
But it doesn't work for everyone. Again, but at the end of the day, the fact that Boswell played against in the Pac-12 tournament at USC was, I think, indicative of one of the few problems with Tommy Lloyd as a head coach, but he's still learning too.
Right.
And again, I don't know what Few's system was. I never thought of them as being like, the most discipline driven staff either, which kind of, again, I think does show up occasionally in the tournament.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's a little bit of the issue. We'll find out. Now let's talk Tobe Awaka. I am excited. I think Arizona needs players like Tobe Awaka, and I can tell you that there's a person on the staff that believes he's going to play in the NBA. A big part of this too is that Rick Barnes obviously is not a good offensive coach. Awaka, Krivas, and Townsend. Is this equipped for Big 12 play?
Yeah. They may not be as rugged as we like, but they're going to, I think Townsend's going to run some guys ragged. Because you remember, if you're big and physical, then and the other guy is not, you have to chase. And we've seen Arizona have some big physical guys who could not handle. I'll give you a great example. Some of those Oregon power forwards, Bell, for example, 6'7", jumps out the gym, and he ran some Arizona guys ragged. You just have to be able to manipulate those matchups.
Right.
And I think Arizona has enough versatility in the front court. And again, the two big questions are, is Vasar ready to play? Will he ever be ready to play? And Emmanuel Stephen, who I don't think is ready to play.
Right.
But they are all five of those guys are so different that if used correctly, and again, Lloyd offensively is usually pretty good at using his talent, you can get some great matchups out of that.
Right.
I think, yes, you would probably like one more super rugged guy. Waka's physical, but how physical, I'm not sure. I haven't seen enough of him, to be honest. Krivas will bang a little bit, but again, at the end of the day, I always wonder, how much do Europeans like to, other than Jokic?
Right.
So we'll see. But I think Arizona has enough talent there with those three guys that they're going to create some matchup problems.
Yes. Now, offensively, then, Caleb Love, here's where I'm at. I need 5 to 6 free throws per game. I know what he can do. I know all of that, but I need 5 to 6 free throws per game from him because he needs to be able to attack the hoop.
Yeah. And what he has to understand is when he attacks the hoop, that's going to open up his outside shooting more. It goes hand in hand. And again, some of that is now getting him involved. He and Bradley working off of each other. He and Lewis working off of each other. That's it. But yes, he has to commit to, I'm going to drive. And it's not like he never did. It's just they would go in phases. It seemed like he would drive 10 times a game, one game, and then not at all the next.
But that also comes back to me with Tommy Lloyd, though. I think you've got to expect that. I think you've got to tell him that, hey, this is what I need out of you.
Yeah, and again, here's a guy who likes to score, and why do we want you to drive the lane? So you can score more.
Right.
And again, he's a fantastic free throw shooter too. So that's, you get to the line 6 times, that's a minimum of 5 points.
All right. Now, Lost Highway says, I agree with this. This is an interesting one for me. Lost Highway says, I just don't get how the strength and conditioning didn't hold Boswell accountable. They have to test guys every few months. Boswell couldn't even jump or move literally. That is that's a fair critique. Then that is one thing. And again, I'll take Tommy Lloyd every single day of the week over Sean Miller. I'm not a Sean Miller guy. But that is one thing that would have never happened under Sean Miller. Boswell would have not been permitted to do basically what he wanted to do.
No, and if you go back to Luke, there's only one guy who kind of fell into that category of being out of shape, and that was Isaiah Fox. And that was just, and even then he could play at 250.
And guys, we need to we need to stop comparing Tommy Lloyd and Brent Brennan. Again, maybe Brent Brennan turns out to be very, very good. But if you were to put a college basketball poll out amongst coaches or, just about amongst athletic directors, what coach would you want for the next 15 years running your program? Tommy Lloyd is going to be in the top 5 on all of those lists. Brent Brennan is not. So when people compare the two, I don't see it.
Honestly, if Brennan is Tommy Lloyd 2.0, Arizona football's in great shape.
Oh, they're in great shape.
Again, the only thing Lloyd hasn't done is made that deep tournament run. And again, that's very important. We have seen other coaches where it takes them a while to get their tournament legs. Or they make one deep run and then they don't for a long. Self, who went to an Elite 8 like year 2 and then didn't get back for like 4 or 5 years.
Well, and remember, the question with him is he couldn't even get to the Final Four.
Yeah. So again.
All right. Yes. So
yes, we have some criticism of Tommy Lloyd. That's great. That's why we're fans. It's fun, but it's better than a lot of alternatives.
Yeah. We'll take it.
Okay. And if Brennan can finish top 3 in the league every year and only get to the first or second round of the 12-team playoff, I'll take Tommy Lloyd 2.0.
All right, now there's no better time to become a PHNX diehard, my friends. Discord chats, everything, all kinds of good stuff. Now you can also get a closer access to a bunch of different people, bunch of different players, and written content, all kinds of good stuff. Check it out. Become a PHNX diehard today. And again, all kinds of good stuff. William Brad Alice, check out, do you have any podcasts coming up?
We'll see if I have time. It's we got very busy again. In fact, today I got a doubleheader. We go junior high football, then we have a baseball game an hour later. So we'll see.
Right. Okay, but again, no better time to back the 8. We're going to be back with you tomorrow at 10:30. By the way, got to give a huge shout out to Brad's camera. That thing, Brad gets a new camera, and then immediately the ladies start asking him to be the pickleball partner. I'm just saying, good thing nobody's watching, because that could be good. That could be tough. Brad been married many years, Erica. So I'm just saying. But on that note, though, William, very much appreciate you as always, my guy.
Anytime. See you next Tuesday.
For Mr. William Brad Alice, I am merely Mike Luke. Shane Diefenbach behind the scenes. You have been listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.